What to do when someone won't stop talking. There are moments in life where you feel like you're trapped in a conversation you never asked for. Someone's talking and talking and talking, and you're just stuck. You nod, you smile, you try to stay polite, but deep down, you feel your energy slipping away. You want to speak, but the space never opens. You want to leave, but the guilt holds you back. And in that moment, you start to wonder, is it rude to want peace? Is it wrong to need space? Is it selfish to say this doesn't work for me? This speech is for you, the person who's tired of feeling small in loud rooms, the person who's done pretending that silence is the only respectful answer, the person who knows their time is valuable, their energy is sacred, and their voice matters too. Today, we're going to talk about what to do when someone won't stop talking. Not with frustration, not with anger, but with calm power. Because you don't have to lose your cool to reclaim your space. You don't have to match noise with noise to be heard. And you don't have to stay stuck in conversations that leave you empty. This isn't just about words, it's about worth. It's about standing tall when someone else is trying to fill the room. So if you've ever felt ignored, overwhelmed, or invisible in the middle of someone else's monologue, stay with me, because by the end of this video, you won't just know what to do, you'll feel strong enough to do it. Let's begin. You can't control their mouth, but you can control your response. That simple truth holds more power than we realize, because so often when someone dominates a conversation, we feel trapped. We feel like we've lost control, like we have to sit there and endure every word. But the moment you understand that you're not responsible for their behavior, only your reaction, you reclaim your power. You step out of the role of victim and into the role of someone who chooses how to respond, not react. When someone talks endlessly, it's easy to get frustrated. Maybe they don't notice your body language. Maybe they ignore your attempts to contribute. Maybe they're so wrapped up in themselves that they don't even realize you're in the room too. But here's the truth. They don't need to change in order for you to take control of the moment. You can decide not to internalize the frustration. You can decide to redirect your attention. You can decide to preserve your peace even when the situation feels like it's spinning out of your hands. That is strength. That is maturity. And that's what self-respect looks like in action. There's nothing weak about choosing silence when silence is strategic. And there's nothing rude about protecting your energy when someone else isn't aware of theirs. If a person is monopolizing your time, you don't have to sit there and absorb it. You can mentally step back. You can check in with yourself and ask, is this where I want to be right now? And if the answer is no, you can start looking for an exit, not to be disrespectful, but to be responsible for your own emotional balance. This isn't about shutting people down or building walls. It's about realizing that you are not a prisoner of someone else's words. You are not obligated to absorb energy that leaves you drained. You can stand in your own space, grounded, aware, and steady, while someone else spins in circles around their own words. You can breathe, you can detach, you can lead with calm confidence instead of letting the moment pull you under. Because no matter how loud someone gets, your piece doesn't have to match their volume. And no matter how long they speak, you still get to choose what you carry home with you. That is real emotional control. That's the difference between letting life happen to you and deciding how you'll live it. You may not get to choose who talks too much, but you always get to choose what you do with it. That choice, that small but powerful choice, belongs to you every single time. You don't have to match their volume or energy. That's one of the most freeing truths when it comes to dealing with someone who won't stop talking. Too often when we're caught in that kind of moment, we feel this pressure to either shut down completely or fight back just as loud. But there's a third option, the one where you stay calm, steady, and in control. Setting boundaries doesn't require you to become someone you're not. It doesn't require anger. It doesn't require confrontation. What it requires is clarity. Clarity about what you will allow and what you won't. Clarity about how much space someone gets in your day, your mind, and your emotional capacity. Sometimes people talk over you not because they're trying to be rude, but because they're used to being the center of the room. They're used to people nodding along, giving up their time, giving up their energy. But just because they're used to it doesn't mean you have to allow it. You don't need to yell to be heard. You don't need to match their pace to have power. You can simply pause, raise your hand gently, or make eye contact with quiet confidence and say something like, "Can I speak into this?" Or, "Let's take a breath so I can share my side." These small phrases can feel huge in the moment. They draw a line, not with anger, but with maturity. It's important to remember that boundaries aren't just for protecting you from others. They're also for protecting the relationship. Because when you let someone continue unchecked, resentment builds. Silence turns into bitterness. You start to avoid the person altogether instead of trying to guide the dynamic towards something more respectful. But when you speak up, when you kindly say, "I'd like to add something," or "Let's keep this a two-way conversation," you're not just protecting your peace. You're giving the other person a chance to grow too. You can bring balance to the conversation without tipping it into chaos. You can be direct and kind at the same time. You can interrupt, not to dominate, but to restore equality. And that takes emotional strength because it's easier to stay quiet. It's easier to nod along and count the seconds until it's over. But growth happens when you step out of easy and into honesty. When you say what needs to be said, not to hurt, but to heal. You don't need to shout to be heard. You don't need to argue to be assertive. You just need to know your value and act from it. When someone won't stop talking, it's not your job to silence them. It's your responsibility to decide how much of yourself you're going to give. And that kind of self-awareness builds stronger conversations, stronger relationships, and a stronger you. Listening is not the same as agreeing. That's one of the most misunderstood parts of communication, and it's especially important when someone won't stop talking. Many people believe that if you stay quiet, nod your head, or let someone speak at length, you must agree with what they're saying. But real maturity understands the difference between giving someone space to speak and giving their words a place in your heart. You can let someone finish a sentence without making their opinion your truth. You can be respectful without becoming influenced. You can hear someone out and still stand firm in your own beliefs, values, and perspective. Sometimes we're silent not because we're weak, but because we're wise. We know that interrupting every sentence doesn't move the conversation forward. We know that battling over every word only drains us more. But silence doesn't mean surrender. You can listen without nodding. You can listen without agreeing. You can even listen while internally drawing a line, thinking, "This doesn't sit right with me, and I don't have to accept it." That's emotional intelligence, that's confidence, that's self-control. It's important to remember that just because someone talks longer or louder doesn't mean they're right. Sometimes the people who talk the most are just trying to drown out their own doubts. Sometimes they're venting without direction. Sometimes they're looking for validation and volume. And while it's fine to give people a moment to let their thoughts out, you don't have to absorb it all. You don't have to let their words shape how you see yourself, your life, or your worth. This key is especially important in conversations that feel one-sided or emotionally heavy. Maybe they're criticizing someone, maybe they're ranting about a belief you don't share, maybe they're just offloading negativity. In those moments, remind yourself that being present doesn't mean you're agreeing. Let them speak if you choose to, but don't carry their opinions like they belong to you. Protect your own thoughts. Hold on to your truth. Keep a clear boundary between what you hear and what you accept. You can be kind without being passive. You can offer someone your time without giving away your peace. And you can walk away from a conversation knowing exactly who you are and what you believe, even if the other person never stopped talking long enough to ask. Listening can be an act of strength, not submission. It's not about giving them power. It's about showing your own. You choose what you accept. You decide what you carry. And the best part is you can listen with clarity, respond with calm, and still leave with your head held high, knowing that respect for others never has to come at the cost of respect for yourself. Interrupting isn't rude when it's about respect. That's something we all need to understand, especially in moments where someone dominates a conversation without giving space for anyone else to speak. We're often raised to believe that cutting someone off is impolite, that it's disrespectful or selfish. But the truth is, letting someone speak endlessly without allowing others to contribute isn't respectful either. Communication is meant to be a two-way street, and when it turns into a monologue, it becomes unbalanced. Respect works both ways, and when it's missing, it's not wrong to step in and restore it. Sometimes the most respectful thing you can do for yourself and for the conversation is to interrupt. Not with aggression, not with frustration, but with calm and confidence. You can say, I'd love to add something here, or can I just jump in for a moment? These gentle interruptions don't shut someone down. They simply remind them that you're in the room too, that your thoughts matter just as much, and that the conversation deserves balance. This isn't about control, it's about contribution. And you have every right to contribute, even if someone else is used to taking up all the space. It takes courage to speak up in the middle of a flood of words. It's easier to stay quiet, to wait, to hope for a pause that never comes. But your voice wasn't made to sit on the sidelines. Your presence matters, your ideas have value, and if someone else isn't giving you room, it's okay to make room for yourself. That's not arrogance. That's ownership of your place in the conversation. Because if you don't claim your space, someone else will fill it for you. And don't let the fear of being seen as rude stop you from stepping up. There's a difference between interruption and intrusion. One is rooted in confidence and balance, the other in dominance. You're not trying to overpower someone, you're trying to participate, and that distinction matters. When you interrupt to restore equality, to ensure the conversation includes more than one voice, you're actually showing a deeper level of respect for yourself, for the other person, and for the value of the exchange. You don't have to sit through every word when the flow of conversation becomes one-sided. You can reclaim your place with grace. And when you do, you teach others how to communicate better. You show them that conversation isn't about who talks the longest, but about who listens, who engages, and who honors the shared space. So next time someone won't stop talking, remember that speaking up isn't wrong, it's necessary because your voice has weight and the conversation deserves your input too. Your energy deserves protection. It's one of the most important lessons you can carry into every conversation and every connection. We live in a world where people feel entitled to our time, our attention, our mental space, and sometimes, without even realizing it, we keep giving parts of ourselves away to people who have no intention of giving anything back. When someone won't stop talking, when they dominate the space, when they keep going on and on without any awareness of your time or feelings, it's not just about being talkative. It's about how their words begin to drain your energy. And the longer you stay silent, the more you start to feel it, that inner exhaustion, that quiet frustration, that urge to escape, but not knowing how to do it without causing a scene. That's when you need to remind yourself that you are not responsible for managing other people's lack of awareness. You are only responsible for managing how much of yourself you continue to give away when it's clear the other person isn't valuing it. There's nothing selfish about creating emotional boundaries. You're allowed to say no without guilt. You're allowed to excuse yourself without explaining your every move. You're allowed to value your peace over politeness, because being polite should never cost you your well-being. Your emotional health is worth guarding. Your time is worth something. Your energy is not unlimited. And just because someone wants your attention doesn't mean they're entitled to it, especially if they're using it without any understanding or respect for how it affects you. Sometimes the best response is to shift the moment. You can change the subject. You can steer the conversation in a new direction. You can give a gentle signal, a glance at the time, a pause in eye contact, a slight body movement to say, This is too much for me right now. And when those signals are ignored, you can be clear. You can say, hey, I need to pause here, or let's pick this up later. That's not cutting someone off. That's choosing you. That's protecting what you need so you're not left emotionally depleted. You are not a dumping ground for other people's unfiltered thoughts. You are not an open microphone for someone else's monologue. You are a person with limits, and those limits are worth honoring. Even if it makes someone uncomfortable, even if it feels unfamiliar, protecting your energy is an act of self-respect. It's how you show yourself in the world that your time matters, your presence matters, your voice matters. And the more you practice it, the more natural it becomes to step away from conversations that leave you empty and move toward spaces that fill you up. Because in the end, your peace is not up for negotiation. It's your responsibility, your power, and your right. So here's what it all comes down to. When someone won't stop talking, you don't have to feel powerless. You don't have to sit there quietly while your energy is drained and your voice is buried. You're not being rude for speaking up. You're not being difficult for setting a boundary. You're being responsible for your emotional health. You're being honest about what you need. You're choosing peace over pressure, clarity over chaos, and confidence over silence, whether it's redirecting the conversation, calmly interrupting, or simply walking away. You have options. You are not trapped. You are in control of how much space you give, how much energy you invest, and how much of yourself you choose to protect. The power is already in your hands. All you have to do is use it with grace, strength, and intention. Thank you for giving your time, your presence, and your heart to this message. I hope it gave you something to carry forward, something practical, something freeing, something true. You deserve conversations that lift you, not ones that drain you. You deserve to feel heard just as much as anyone else. And as you go into the next moment, the next meeting, the next room, may you walk in with confidence, speak with clarity, and protect your peace with purpose. Good luck on your journey, and thank you for listening.